This is Jordan's video, or Equalized Espresso video, on the Helldivers controversy. I haven't seen the video yet, but I'm excited for it, and he's got some loud music. This guy just saved the day, though.
Turbulent last 72 hours or so for Helldivers 2 in the fight for managed democracy, but in that span, the true value of the communal response from the player is something that can absolutely be seen to make an impact and is a testament to the player base and the power the player base holds. Today, I'm going to fill you in on the entire situation.
Okay, so before this video starts, let me give you my view of what has happened. So, essentially, sorry, gotta focus for a second. Helldivers 2 came out, and originally the game was supposed to have it so that you had to be connected to a PlayStation account. This was live for about an hour, and then they removed it because of server issues. From what I've seen, that's what happened. Now, I haven't played Helldivers 2, because if I played Helldivers 2, I would get way too into it, love it way too much, and that would be all I would do. So I wouldn't be productive at all. I just know. It's like Destiny. When I play Destiny, I play Destiny hard. So I didn't play it. Now, what has happened months later is that it is now made so that you have to be connected to a PlayStation account to play the game on PC. Problem is, a bunch of people have already bought the game. And when you buy the game and you expect things to be a certain way, and then they're not, it's really sketchy. Now, there's other problems with this too, because I'm sure Jordan's going to go into this, but places around the world, you literally can't get a PlayStation account. So you may have bought this. I believe Ukraine is one of those areas that is like this in Ukraine, and now you can't play the game that you paid for because of this new system that's been implemented. Like, literally just you can't play it, and then getting refunds is hard because you've already played it for 100 hours or whatever, and that's not the way refunds work on Steam. So that's kind of the gist of it, and also it's annoying, right? And I'll get more into it as the video goes on.
And discuss the current resolution currently at play here for the Helldivers community. Drop your thoughts, drop a like, and make sure to subscribe for more Helldivers 2 and other FPS coverage.
And yes, go
especially
subscribe
as we
to
gear up
Jordan.
for the
He's
COD
awesome.
reveal season. I'd love to have in the community, but for now, let's jump into it. Here's what happened. So Sony announced recently PC players must link a PlayStation account, otherwise they wouldn't be able to continue to be able to play. That was supposed to go in effect as of today, but what was interesting is that the very beginning here, this was contrary to what we had seen from launch up until this point. You could link an account, but whether by error or intentional, it was said it was some technical limitations as to why it wasn't enforced, but you could skip it entirely up until this announcement. Like myself, I have a PlayStation account, but I never linked the two together with Helldivers.
Yeah, 'cause screw them, right?
The problem was that it was mandatory, or at least that was one step of the problem, meaning that you would not be able to play at all if you didn't link after this update was supposedly going to go in effect. But what is worse is that the PlayStation Network isn't available in 100+ countries. Over half the countries in the world would thus be rendered unable to play Helldivers 2. So obviously you can see where that is a huge concern. And sure, you might be able to use it.
Just to be well stated, half the country, it's half the world, and yet the numbers might not be there. Like, I don't know about places like I'm sure it seems like Japan's one of them that doesn't have it. That's a pretty big one. Curious about China. I can't see it in there, but like some countries with some pretty big populations literally cannot play the game, which is wild.
VPN, if you care that much, you want to circumnavigate that, but that's also against PSN's.
That's the other thing that I didn't mention. So you cannot fake your location on PSN. It's against PlayStation terms of service, which means that if you paid for the game, and Sony made money off of it, and then you wanted to, okay, now I'm in Canada or the US, I can have a PlayStation account now, they can ban you for actually just trying to play their game legitimately.
Terms of service, thus could result in a ban. Beyond that, the game was also delisted in those countries, so players who had bought the game previously could no longer play it while this was going on.
Yeah.
So players who had previously paid for played up until that announcement, and everything in between, they loved it, put their time and effort and money into it, they could not play the game, even if it was.
Honestly, I think for a lot of people, the time part is probably even worse than the money part. Like, yeah, some people are short on money, and maybe that's the one game that they're going to buy for the year. And in their situation, I really feel for them. But for someone who has invested 100 hours Hey, dude. 100 hours into the game, it's almost as heartbreaking because all of that they worked for in a game that's like a looter shooter like that is just gone, and like there's nothing they can do. It's horrible.
Was in the Steam library, it wasn't available to be played, so it was taken away from them with no consolation or anything like that. So yeah, people rightfully were pissed. Now the whole situation became an absolute mess, and naturally, well, then that showed in the reviews for Helldivers 2. The one pun that I found the most funny with this was orbital review bomb. But anyways, this was something that was like it was unprecedented.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'd seen anything like this before, and the only thing that I can really think of in regards to a massive rating bomb, my mind immediately from the FPS space goes to Infinite Warfare's reveal trailer. You know, like the one that to date has almost 4 million dislikes, and to date is still the 25th most disliked YouTube video ever. At the time, I think that it was, I want to say, in the top 10, and I do remember for a while it was the most disliked trailer video ever.
Yeah.
But anyways, reviews were bombarded. With nearly 300,000 reviews in the last 72-ish hours, with nearly 100,000 negative reviews in one day, they ended up taking the game from mostly positive to overwhelmingly negative on these Steam reviews in 3 days span. And one of the things that I found the craziest was that amidst this entire fiasco, Sony had changed their language on FAQ in terms.
Yes, this I didn't mention. Okay, so on their frequently asked questions, it stated that it was optional to link your accounts, and this was on the Sony website, not Steam, the Sony website, which if you're buying a Sony game, that should be the gospel, that should be the Bible of what the rules are, is what Sony says. And I believe it to this date, if you go, they might have changed it now, if you go to the Helldivers page and go to the frequently asked questions on the Sony website, it will actually say that it is optional, not that it is mandatory, which is, I think, I'm not a lawyer, but I think is the definition of false advertising, or at the very least lying.
In terms of service pages for Helldivers after it had started to take buzz, as if players wouldn't notice that kind of stuff.
I bet you it's changed now.
We literally just saw this with how Tarkov's Unheard Edition went and how horribly sketchy that made Battle State look after changing the language there.
Yeah.
So to see them even attempt that was kind of comical to a degree, but also like it was just bad to see. It's like, did you really think that we wouldn't catch that? But anyways, months and months of goodwill and just proper storytelling and management of a live service.
One thing I want to say before this goes any further is the one thing I will say about this is, oh yeah, and Boomer, I think you can put the link in chat, but if you just send it to me on Twitter, we can watch that video after. Yeah, I feel really bad for the devs of Helldivers. It was very clear that the devs of Helldivers really just wanted to make a fun game for people to play. And like even like the comedy in the game, you can see that. And now they're screwed because of not a decision that they made. And maybe, yeah, they could have been more clear about it, but it's a decision that Sony made. And what I truly believe happened is when this was removed, like this was supposed to be in the game from the beginning. And I honestly think it would have been fine if it was, but the fact that it wasn't and people bought the game that can now not play it, I think what the devs of the game actually thought was that their game was so successful that Sony was going to backpedal and be like, okay, we just want you to continue being successful with this game. And Sony was just like, nope, we want people's data and we want to have people struggle to log in when they play your game. So I feel bad for the devs.
This game, like I've talked about this plenty of times. I think that Helldivers up until this point was doing everything right. Like live services for a lot of people negatively connotated, but they ended up coming in and giving us a good live service game. But it seemed to...
The problem with live service games is they're all fighting for your time and you only have so much time. So for a live service game to be good and worth it, it's got to be a good game. And it's very rare that a live service game comes out and is actually good. At least in my opinion. Can you get out of here? Let's go like this. There we go. Okay, back to the video.
In every capacity, want to make the game as best for players as possible. In this situation, entirely wiped out by a publisher's dumb decision. Then they initially doubled down on it. Like all that.
Publisher, not developer.
gone. Now, yeah, I'm sure why you can probably point towards some studio messaging that wasn't the best. It did suck to see, again, all that goodwill, all those good intentions from Arrowhead with the game just being dragged through the mud as a result of Sony's decision to disenfranchise a large amount of the player base. Arrowhead had even encouraged the negative reviews to let it be known, to let those
hilarious. So Arrowhead, I believe one of their community managers came out and said, hey, review bomb our game because maybe Sony will listen and then change it so that everyone around the world can play our game, which he probably got in so much trouble for saying, but still awesome nonetheless.
Frustrations be aired out, but to know that it was a Sony decision, not an Arrowhead thing. It even got to the point where Steam was offering unconditional refunds for a time where no matter how many hours you put into the game, well above their standard policies, you could end up getting a refund for those in affected areas by the PSN outages. And it might have even just been in general, not 100% sure on that one, but
that was for the PSN
got to the point
outages.
where Helldivers finally and rightfully won against the giant corporation of Sony. Sony ended up announcing on PlayStation, Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would require Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We're still learning what is best for people.
Hold up. I actually didn't know that this happened. Helldivers fan, have you heard the feedback? Account linking update, the May 6th update, which would have required Steam PlayStation Network account linking for new players, will not be moving forward. The review bombs worked. No way. I actually did not know that. So yeah, it worked. What Arrowhead said to do, what the devs said to do by review bombing their game, actually worked. And now everyone around the world can play again. I'm very curious to see what this does with reviews. If people are still going to be mad about it, or if they're going to start positively reviewing the game because they actually listen. And that's a big thing. Most games don't. So, cool.
PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans. So, I mean, that just shows the power of community reception right there. But frankly, that is the first time I think I've seen a massive corporation like this actually backpedal on this kind of thing, which is another one. Not only did we just win and get this sort of thing reverted, where it's not going to be anything you have to take into account, or you're not going to see any loss in player opportunities because of PlayStation availability in certain areas, but it's the fact also that they actually walked it back. When we've seen, again, so many other studios, publishers in recent years double down on very stupid decisions for the players, all in the name
Call of Duty,
trying to make an extra buck or something by pushing a subscription, pushing a whatever it may be. But Sony actually backed down, which I'm pretty surprised by, but obviously very happy with. It's refreshing to see because I feel like so many times, again, we just see that doubling down on an absolutely out of touch decision. So that said, there's still work to do, much like the dog pile that happened with the previously mentioned Infinite Warfare trailer. There were surely a lot of reviews, not saying a majority, but I'm sure there's a bunch out there that probably won't end up reversing their negative review, either because...
So, this is rumors, and this is to do with Call of Duty. But, back when Infinite Warfare came out, I wasn't there. I didn't get invited to any of the events until later in Infinite Warfare. I believe it was DLC 1. But apparently before Infinite Warfare came out, they were going to announce the game earlier. And they brought out a bunch of people, and they played the game. And apparently it was so bad that the people who played it were like, you cannot release this. Like, you cannot put this out. And Infinite Warfare as we know it was a much different version of the game than eventually came to fruition. So this thing where like it's not like they don't listen. Sometimes I feel like Activision does not listen, but they do listen and they want to make money and speaking with your wallets. And I think probably the biggest thing was people probably requesting refunds, and the fact that people literally couldn't play the game. Like, it's just a stupid decision. So Sony had a lot of bad faith built up with them already, like them getting hacked and like a bunch of other things, just Sony doing shady Sony stuff. And with what they have added now, it kind of brings back some faith for their company.
They just don't pay attention after they reviewed that. They haven't paid attention to the update to the situation. they're just trying to troll the game, whatever the case, they just wanted to add it, who knows. Like, it's great that we had the effective rating bomb campaign that had a proper outcome, and it's great to see so many people are now very clearly reversing the reviews to a positive one. But I mean, damage overall was absolutely done as a result of Sony and PlayStation pushing of this. And outside
100%.
of a review perspective, I'm sure that people would be skeptical of anything going further in the future. I mean, trust is a lot easier to lose than it is to gain. So even while we touched on that Arrowhead and the actual dev team seemingly just want what's best for the project and their players, even though we're back to square one to where we were like a week or two ago at this point, before the information of account linking and the update upcoming, you can't pretend like nothing happened because the evidence is so clearly there. So while I'd love for 100% of people to recognize...
Can you pretend like nothing happened? Because really nothing did happen. They tried something, the community hated it, and they didn't do it. It's like if you like are with a friend or a girlfriend or something and you're like, hey, I want to try a little something, something. And she's like, hell no, I will not be with you if you're doing that. And you're just like, oh, okay. Nothing happened. Like, yeah, she may have gotten angry for you wanting that, but they listened. So did anything happen? I don't know.
As, hey, this was Sony's screw up, PlayStation screw up. Helldivers is going to have to instill more confidence once again. And I think it's certainly possible. The
Or
game
should
has,
this instill
again,
more
as I mentioned,
confidence?
been a beacon of
Like, we
how a
listen.
development team can work for the player and make an awesome game going forward. It just sucks to see a reputational stain on this game because it's something seemingly out of their control a little bit. Personally, I always thought that if you were to just have an optional account linking with a unique skin reward for linking your accounts, if you...
I actually saw Asmongold say this. Oh, actually, I think Jordan just said it too. They should have done this in a different way. If they want your account to be linked, they should have given you something for linking your account, because this way they were just taking something away if you didn't. And that's always shady. So yeah, I think Jordan just said
really cared about that sign up or the data here with that kind of stuff. Don't make it mandatory, but then offer an incentive to do it.
Yeah,
I feel like
exactly what he's
this
saying.
entire situation is just a non-issue. I don't think that this ever gets off the ground if it's an optional thing. Like, I don't know why Sony was so hell-bent on this in the first place, but I mean, it is what it is. The whole 72-hour to 96-hour fiasco is now seemingly concluded, which is definitely nice, and the fight for Super Earth and managed democracy can continue on. But man, what a situation it was. It sucks to see because, again, Helldivers was killing it, I think, in terms of
I think they still
reputation
will.
and how everything was perceived.
But we'll be back
But
to
now we push for the future and
fighting for
hopefully more
democracy once
positivity
again.
out there. But anyways, that is the Helldivers fiasco and how it almost all imploded. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this whole situation? Are you glad the account linking is now no longer a thing? Are you glad that players are now no longer restricted geographically from playing the game? I think that was probably one of the biggest things out of
that has
that,
to
if
be the
not
biggest
the
thing.
biggest thing. But let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things.
All right, so why is this a big deal? I think you got to look at this from two different perspectives. First of all, it's a big deal because they actually listen. That never happens with developers. Like, never. So big deal reason number one. But some people are like, okay, well, why don't you just link your account? Like, it's not a big deal. You just sign in and then you're good. You're good forever. Now, some people could say for, I don't know why I'm grabbing this stuff, but I am. The fact that you have to link it in like data breaches and things like that, it could be bad for that reason. But I think the biggest reason is when you buy something and you expect it to work in a certain way. What's a good example? Cell phone or car? We'll go car. Car is the easier one because I think it's more extreme. You buy a car and my car has OnStar in it and I don't pay for OnStar because I don't want to pay monthly for something I don't use. But then they come by and say, oh, no. You actually have to have OnStar for your car to work. You still don't have to pay for it, but you have to have it in order for it to work. So yeah, that's your only option. So sign up. In fact, you have to call or at least go onto our website, sign up, log in, and yeah, we're going to use your data for things. We're going to send you emails and you're going to be annoyed by it, but you actually have to have it for your car to work. Is it going to stop me from using my car? Probably not, but still annoying, frustrating.
Helldivers 2 and other FPS content here in the future, I'd love to have you.
I think
For
Jordan's
now,
done cooking
thanks so
now.
much for watching. On to Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.
Bye, Espresso. All right, we're almost done with this run, so that's kind of it. That's the Helldivers controversy. I'm glad that they fixed it. I'm surprised that they fixed it. I actually didn't know that before watching the video, so good news for once.